Hello there, BookTube. My name is Daniel. Welcome back to my channel, Guilty Feet. You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows, and I've got no rhythm. Today I'm going to talk about a new book by an author that has won many prizes over the years, Golden Globe, an Oscar, 10 Grammys, and the Nobel Prize for Literature. This is his first book since winning the Nobel Prize for Literature, and has got surprisingly little play on BookTube as far as I've seen, which I think is unusual. I think most new works by Nobel Prize winning laureates would certainly have been picked up more than this. I am, of course, talking about Bob Dylan's The Philosophy of Modern Song. I picked this up in London for half price in Waterston's half price book sale. I kept a sticker on there. So this would have been £35 and I paid £17.50 for it, which is still probably as much as I would ever pay for a book. I'm not the world's biggest Dylan fanboy. I was more of a Beatles fan as a kid, and I came to sort of Dylan peripherally, and haven't, so familiar with his work more from a sort of greatest hits point of view than listening to every album on repeat and knowing every single song off by heart. I did kind of borrow some of his name for my first born child, but other than that, I came to this. I loved Chronicles. One second, which I've got here. Hold on one second, I'll show that. Yeah, sorry, I've got a copy of Chronicles here, which I read probably almost 20 years ago. This is paperback, which I remember really enjoying. I think he had a book out in the 60s, Tarantula, which I never read. Obviously this is his first published work since winning the prize, but I think we know that he got the prize not for the books he's published as much as for his other writing, songwriting specifically. So what do I think of The Philosophy of Modern Song by Bob Dylan? First of all, I think it's a horrendous name. That's not what it is at all. It's not a philosophy of modern song. It is a series of essays, 60 plus essays. Each one, I'll tell you exactly how many. Each one, sorry, it doesn't say it in the contents, but 66 essays, each one looking at a different song, most by different performers. There are a couple of performers appear more than once. It's a very eclectic selection. I'd say the bulk of the songs come from Dylan's formative years, so we've got 40s and 50s, but there are a handful of songs, or a good collection of songs also from after he was already a success. So some from the 60s contemporaneously with his breakthrough, and then even a couple from the 70s, I think, and it goes up to the early 80s, and that's about as modern as we get. I don't think there's anything at all from the last 40 years. And in each for each song, for most, it's not true, it's not rigidly true for every chapter, but in most cases the song there's two parts to it. So the first part, he just philosophizes. It's his philosophy. He's just talking and rambling about what the song and what it brings up for him. And then if there's a second part, then it's often sort of a biographical about the songwriters, the singer, maybe a bit about the time, and it's all kind of fun. They're like, these essays are 2-3 pages long. There's also a lot of pictures and ephemera, little bits like that, and then other pictures. I think that's Burt Lancaster and Deborah Carr from Here to Eternity, which is, I don't think is referenced in the essay. That's how this works. So in Beyond the Sea, for example, Beyond the Sea by Bobby Darin is a song that you might know. Beyond, do 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 do, and there he's got what appears to be a pencil printing of whales. It's kind of kooky, but I think the pictures and the art sort of give it. So that's a volare, oh, and then he's got some advert for a Plymouth volare. It's kind of nutty like that. The writing itself is entertaining, as you would expect. This is a witty man in his late 70s who has seen a lot of the world, has thought a lot about music and songwriting, and he's pretty good. So here is, later in the book, we've got an essay about Carl Perkins' Blue Suede Shoes, a song made famous by Elvis Presley, although written and first performed by Carl Perkins. And I'm going to read a couple of extras. I don't often do readings from the books, but I think to give you a flavour of what this Nobel laureate is up to these days, I think this will give you a taste of the writing. So Poor Carl Perkins, watching Elvis Presley sing his song Blue Suede Shoes on TV in 1956 from a hospital bed. At that point, Carl's version had sold 500,000 copies, but a car accident on the way to the Perry Como show slowed the momentum of Carl's career and it never truly recovered. But perhaps he was never truly meant to be the king of rock and roll. His ballads, like Sure to Fall, were achingly beautiful, but hillbilly at their heart. Songs like Tennessee were certainly worlds away from Chuck Berry's Promised Land, going so far as to brag that they built the first atomic bomb in Tennessee. Carl was too much the country boy for the rock and roll crown. Elvis, on the other hand, was all sullen eyes and sharp cheekbones, backwards born but city living, truck driving, hip shaking, with a feral whiff of danger. Carl wrote this song, but if Elvis was alive today, he'd be the one to have the deal with Nike. I just think that as my inability to articulate how fun some of these essays are, I think is better illustrated by the reading of it. As it covers a whole bunch of stuff, there's some great things. I'm going to do one more reading and then I will let you go. So most of the songs, by the way, that was Blue Suede Shoes, which I know he does Pump It Up by Elvis Costello. I knew probably out of 66, maybe 10, 15%, maybe 20% of the songs. Gypsies, Tramps and Thieves by Cher is a great song. One of my favorite songs is he does an essay on that. But there was a whole bunch of songs that I didn't know at all. So I've been going through now, dipping into this and then looking up the songs themselves. Sometimes the songs not quite as entertaining as his essays, but that's the nature of this. So they may be a bit obscure to some of you, or I consider myself fairly well versed in popular music, but I have to admit that some of the songs of the 40s and 50s, things I'd never heard. And this is a song from 1973, released on Stax, a song called Cheaper to Keep Her by Johnny Taylor. That's the name of the song, and I listened to it. Not a great song about how divorce is expensive and it's cheaper to keep her. And I love that this is illustrated with this fantastic, iconic still from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. That's Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. A fantastic film, a fantastic play that I highly recommend. And again, just put here with no comment alongside this essay about this song about divorce. I'll read a bit of this and then I'll get out of your way. Soul records like hillbilly, blues, calypso, Cajun, polka, salsa, and other indigenous forms of music contain wisdom that the upper crust often gets in academia. The so-called school of the streets is a real thing, and it doesn't just apply to learning to steer clear of hustlers and charlatans. While Ivy League graduates talk about love in a rush of quatrains detailing abstract qualities and gossamer attributes, folks from Trinidad to Atlanta, Georgia, sing of the benefits of making an ugly woman your wife and the cold hard facts of life. Or, in this case, Johnny Taylor saves you a hefty legal consultation fee by telling you that it's cheaper to keep her. Of course it's cheaper to keep her. How could it not be? Divorce is a $10 billion a year industry, and that's without renting a hall, hiring a band, or throwing bouquets. Even without the cake, that's a lot of dough. Dad jokes, Rand clearly informed by his own experiences with divorce. This is just a man having fun, writing whatever the heck he wants. And if you're any kind of fan of Dylan or popular music, you might get a kick out of this. Although at this price, maybe you might want to try and wait. I don't know if this will ever get a paperback release or try and pick it up in the library. I kind of enjoyed it. I'm happy to have it on my shelf. That's The Philosophy of Modern Song by Bob Dylan. Thank you. Take care. God bless.